It's another Saturday, so that means you're tuned in once again to the Pod FM show. Hello to you, I'm Octavius Davis, and of course, my sister from another mister on the other end of the microphone.
Wanda P.
What's going on, Wanda? How's the day been for you?
Oh, good.
Well, I said the day.
Hey.
What about the week? It was a whole week that happened before today. How was the week for you?
The week was, I'm going to say what I'm going to say.
What you going to say?
It's a blur. It's always a blur for me.
Yeah?
Yeah, but it was a good week. I had amateur night semifinals last night.
Yep.
So I am tired.
Well, what time did you finally get out of there?
I don't know, but I got home after 11.
It was all a blur,
So,
huh?
right. It was all a blur, so.
Well, I can't say that the week was a blur for me and my family. I'm actually quite proud. I'm a proud dad today because our third oldest daughter swore into the military on yesterday.
Serena?
Serena.
Yay,
Yeah.
Serena.
Yep. So she came
Awesome.
to us maybe a month and a half before she graduated high school. She just graduated a few weeks ago.
Right.
And let us know that, the college thing wasn't for her,
Right.
which we definitely understood. And she felt that going to serve her country was going to be her best move.
Salute,
And
Serena.
So she had wanted to go into the Air Force. She wanted to do air traffic control in the Air Force.
Right.
And she actually got into the Air Force.
Right.
But
I
she
remember you
did
telling
not
me that.
get the air traffic control. She didn't qualify for the air traffic control job.
Program, yeah.
Correct. So our second oldest daughter, Christina,
Yeah,
made the decision that she too wanted to go to the military, and she chose Navy.
right.
So Christina, she went, took the test, passed, and we saw what she qualified for. And so Serena was like, the competition among siblings. Well, I scored higher than Christina, so I'm sure I qualify for even more jobs, which turned out to be the case. And so Serena was pleased with the different jobs she qualified for Navy, so she switched from Air Force and enlisted into the Navy yesterday.
Wow.
And Christina goes to swear in the first week of July. So
Okay, wow.
Wow,
Ooh, child.
indeed, yeah.
Ooh, child.
Woo. Look, some of
I'm
you
proud
just
of the
don't know and
girls.
understand.
Yeah.
Extremely proud.
Yeah, I'm proud
as
of
a,
the girls.
As a father of
Yep.
5 children, I am not one bit concerned about my house load coming just a little bit lighter, just a few less mouths to feed on a monthly basis,
Okay.
because
Ooh,
of course,
especially when school is out.
oh, what you say? Mama say, mama sigh.
Wow, the grocery bill
Yes.
triples
Yes.
during the summer months. I hate it.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God, I used to hate that.
And our oldest daughter, she's going to nursing school.
Good
Yeah,
for Chauncey. I didn't
so,
know that. I'm so proud of her.
So
Yeah.
it's going to be take a little getting. Who's soon to be 16, and then OJ, of course, who's 9 years
Right.
old.
Yeah.
And just us trying to figure out, okay, well, as a 4-person household, what do you do? Used to that, Wanda.
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So I can't
yeah.
say that
Oh,
life
but
has
it's-
been a blur for
It's
us.
gonna be wonderful. Though.
Yeah. Attorney Holliday rubbing his. I got a few ideas on what you can do.
Oh,
this
Lord.
is a PG
Is this-
show.
is this how we
We'll
starting?
We'll come back to that. Our special guest in the studio today is Assistant State Attorney Octavius Holliday. We'll be getting to him in just a few moments.
Yeah.
But Wanda, it's time for the Pod FM 411.
Yes, exactly. All right, so let's get into what we're going to talk about today. As our audience probably knows, this past Monday was the 4th year anniversary of the shooting at Mother Emanuel AME Church in South Carolina.
Yeah.
And so what they did, there was a movie that was released on Monday called Emmanuel, and the movie was a limited release. They only showed it across the country Monday and Wednesday.
Wow.
And what happened with the movie, the proceeds will go directly to the families,
Will
the
it
victim.
really?
Yes,
Wow.
yes. Now, some of the producers, Stephen Curry, you'll be happy to know that.
My
he was
man.
one of the executive producers on that project, along with Viola Davis and Mariska Hargitay, another
Is
actress.
that from Law
From
SVU?
yes, her. So they were among some of the executive producers of that program. So all the proceeds from
Wow.
that 2-day run
Yeah.
will go to the families. So
That's outstanding. Now,
Yep.
see,
I
film.
did. Yes, I did.
tell us about it without telling us
Ooh.
about it.
Okay, so I wasn't ready.
Okay,
It brought back a lot of emotion.
sure.
Oh my God. And I wasn't ready for that. I didn't really go in having any expectation. So I guess that's why I was kind of caught off guard.
Okay.
But it was very emotional just hearing from some of those families of the victims.
Is it
So
done documentary
it
style?
is done
Okay.
documentary style. They start out talking about the history of South Carolina with the slave trade and all that. And one fact that I didn't know, I think it was either 40 or 60% of the slaves came through that city.
Mm.
So in South Carolina, that I didn't know. So that area has a real rich, well, I don't want to say rich, but it has a storied
Sure,
history
sure,
with
sure.
regard to race and all of that. But they give you that piece. And then clips from some of the original news footage and stuff that we all saw 4 years ago, as well as they did, of and just going through like how they found out that their loved one,
Mm.
was there in the church and all of that. And in addition to that, they also showed clips from the court proceedings.
Okay.
So yeah, I just wasn't ready. It just really brought back a lot of memories, and it did stir up some anger in me as well. I'm just gonna be honest, it really did.
Well, and
So,
understandably so. And I
mhm.
was going to ask, when you
Yeah.
say that you weren't ready, what does that mean exactly? You weren't ready in what way?
I wasn't ready to feel all that,
Okay.
because again, I just went with no expectation. I really didn't give any thought to what I might see,
Sure.
you know. And I'm actually kind of glad I didn't. I just kind of went in like, oh, let's see this movie. Let me my
Okay.
mindset.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my mindset. So, and I've got to see this, because that's something I don't ever want to forget, for the rest of my life that what happened,
Sure.
it's a terrible thing. So anyway, I went and just experienced all that emotion, and I just didn't expect that, but I'm glad I went.
What what would you say is one of the number one reasons why more of us need to support this particular documentary?
Well, for one thing, because it does support those victims.
Sure.
Another thing I would say is because we need to support people that are telling our story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plain and simple. We need to support those that are telling our story,
Absolutely.
and letting us tell that story. So for that alone, and one thing that I have been kind of angered by is the coverage of what happened with the Emmanuel Nine.
Hmm.
Even for every year after when it's the anniversary, and I think that anniversary is June 17th. I mean, I see it all on social media, but in the news, they will go back and remind you of other disasters and tragedies and stuff that happened. But the Mother Emanuel tragedy is very seldom brought up. And so that kind of that bothers me. Of course it is.
Of the
Right.
American horror stories that
Yeah.
happen within the African American community, the general news media wants to sweep it up under a rug.
Absolutely they do.
Oh, forget about it.
Yeah, right,
And,
right.
and remember about this Holocaust event. I was
Right,
like, well,
right.
mother sucker, if you don't,
But
you know.
now, but the Holocaust event isn't forgotten about.
But that's my point.
Yeah,
Yeah, that is my point.
Yeah. So anyway.
Well, I'm glad
Yeah.
you were able to go and see
So
it.
yeah, I had a bit of an attitude when I was in the movie, child.
Well, look,
I went through
one
a
of the
range of
reasons
emotion.
why I have not made it all the way through when they see us yet is because I am an NWA.
Right.
and
Listen,
watching
that part, yeah. Yeah.
it stirs up some things. I mean, I have a challenging time watching the news because
Yeah.
that NWA spirit want to rise up out of me real
Right,
quick, like.
right.
You
Did
know.
I ever tell you that when I moved to DC years ago for a whole year, I didn't watch the news purposely?
Really?
I boycotted the news.
For
And
what
I was a news junkie since
Yeah.
I was 12 years old. Because I didn't like the way black people were being portrayed, and especially black men were being portrayed in the news media in Washington D.C. We're talking
Right.
20 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's still
Yeah.
going on today. Now, do you still
It
feel the
is.
same way? Do you still boycott the news
Oh,
today?
I don't. It was just something about the way it was done in D.C.
Sure.
I can't really put my finger on it, but it just caused me to say, I'm not doing this.
Mm.
And so I just, for a whole year, I did not watch local news
Wow.
in DC for a whole year. So,
Well, I'm glad
yeah.
you've plugged back in because one
Mhm.
of the things I do know about you, you use your multiple platforms
Yes.
as an
To
outlet
talk
to
about.
educate and
Yeah.
inform. So
Yeah.
kudos to you
Yeah.
for choosing to plug back in. So
Well, thank you.
what else do we have on the
All
Pod
right,
FM
so
411?
you all know that Wednesday was Juneteenth.
Juneteenth?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're from around our way, it's not teenth, it's
It's
teenth.
teenth. Right, right.
Juneteenth.
Juneteenth. So yeah, Wednesday was Juneteenth, and happy Juneteenth, everybody.
Absolutely.
You know, we all know what Juneteenth is about.
But maybe someone doesn't know what Juneteenth is about.
Yeah, that was the day that we actually were freed.
Our emancipation.
Our emancipation.
Our 4th of July,
Right,
as it were.
right. And so, what I love about social media
Yeah.
is that a lot of these things we're able to learn and just gather more knowledge. And kudos to everybody on social media that posted about Juneteenth.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Kudos to everybody.
Now you have a special tribute
Yeah.
that you came across on social media as
I
it relates
sure
to
did.
Juneteenth.
I sure did. And I would like to play that for you right now.
Roll
all right?
that beautiful beam footage.
Good morning and happy Juneteenth. Please note, if I hear any Confederate attitude in your vocal cords today, you and your vocal troops will be forced to surrender. How can I help you today?
Thurston,
Yes, Bob.
did you add June 19th to the 4th of July flyer?
I did. I want to feel independent too. Well, as independent as I can feel without you General Lee's trying to enslave us again. Enjoy your day, Bob.
There's no more tissue.
Oh, there's plenty in the closet. You'll be picking your own today. Happy Juneteenth. Okay, you have an appointment today? Yes, And what is your name? James Lee. You related to Robert E. Lee? No, I don't think so. Sorry, sometimes my ancestors like to pop up during certain holidays.
Are you going to the 4th of July party?
Not unless they honor June 19th.
Independence is July.
Say that to my spirit cousin from 1776. I'm sure she'll have some words for you. Maybe some hands. You know, my ancestor hands, they real heavy. God bless you.
Oh, God. So that is a video that was done by an actor out of LA. His name is Thurston Cherry. And y'all need to go follow him.
And you have to actually watch the video.
Yes.
The facial expressions that this brother puts along with that
I love
commentary
it.
is bar none.
I love it. I love Thurston. He is a fool. I absolutely love him. And so when I watched the video, when it came across my news feed and I watched it, I posted it and I said, Thurston. I tagged him and
Yeah.
said, you just made my day. So it's hilarious. Not spirit cousin,
The
though,
spirit
right?
cousins with heavy hands.
From
Yeah.
1776.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely
Wow.
love it. So anyway.
Well, that's what's up. Is there anything else we got on the Pod FM 411?
That's it for now.
Well, Wanda, we are going to introduce something brand new today on the Pod FM show. And this is a feature that I would like to call Dear People.
Mm-hmm.
Dear parents who discipline their children, then post the video to social media. I mean, really? This is what we're doing now. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all for correcting a child's bad behavior or destructive tendencies through means of discipline. But why must we post that to social media? Are you trying to up your likes, enhance shares, or maybe, just maybe, you want to give the illusion that you are a good parent? Who really cares about the well-being of their child? So, see, we supposed to go through, suppose we were to go to your job and live stream your trifling behavior at work while your boss reprimanding you for stealing toilet paper or other items at the job or eating other people's food or doing things you ain't got no business doing in the copy room. Yeah, you wouldn't like that too much, would you? But see, at the end of the day, What I'm attempting to say is this: discipline and correction is an intimate parenting moment to help a child become the best version of themselves. Not to like, share, or repost your fragile parenting ego, which ultimately embarrasses your child, and the intent of the punishment lost on social media. So, dear parenting people, that is my message to you on today.
All right, dear people. Very, very good. I love it. I love it, friend.
I can't necessarily promise that every week I'm going to have a new Dear People message. But every now and then when I feel the spirit move me, I think I got to talk to the people, because we are a station and a show that's for the people.
Well, very true. And we as people sometimes do act very trifling.
Look, I have seen triflingness at my job, just as I'm sure everyone else can say that they've seen some triflingness at their job.
Listen, come on, we've been trifling ourselves. Come on now.
No. I don't know what you're talking about. I ain't never been trifling.
In one way or the other.
No, I've been trifling outside of the job, but not trifling at the job. You got to separate that triflingness out.
And I don't mean job. I'm just talking the areas in our lives where we all have been trifling.
Yeah. Go ahead and post how you've been trifling. No, I'm kidding. Do not post in the comments how you've been trifling. We don't want to know that.
No.
But, kind of switching gears, because today's show topic is a very important topic that needs to be discussed. And I'll be honest, Wanda, we going to keep it real. We're going to keep it 100 today.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm tired of discussing this topic. I really am, personally. But I understand the importance of having this conversation with people who are well informed and who are actively involved in those things that affect our community.
Right.
So today we have a very special guest on the show. He is an assistant state attorney, and we are going to be discussing us knowing our rights when dealing with law enforcement. So, Wanda P.
Let me drop this liner real quick.
Go for it.
All right. Well, gee, we'll drop it again.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the imaginary liner that you must think of in your mind.
I guess so.
All right, so we're going to keep it moving. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show Assistant State Attorney Octavius Holliday.
All right, sir. Hey, welcome, sir. It is good to have you here with us on the Pod FM show. And thank you so much. Okay, we can hear you now.
Yeah, we got you loud and clear now.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Not a problem.
Yeah. Good to have you.
Well,
welcome.
Glad to have you on the show. This is probably the first time in radio history that Octavius has interviewed Octavius.
I think so.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and hold that honor. We are going to share that honor today.
Right.
So,
where does the name come from for you, though?
My father's name is Octavius. I'm a junior.
Okay, you're a junior.
Nice.
Okay.
He's Jamaican, so they do it big. So it's Octavius Augustus Holliday Jr.
Wow.
So,
Octavius Augustus. Okay,
right.
yeah.
Now, to your
and
knowledge,
what's your middle name?
Are there a lot of Octaviuses in Jamaica? Is that a common name in Jamaica?
I don't think so. More
Okay.
Winstons and Leroy's. I grew up with,
Leroy is worldwide.
but a lot of
I've
Winstons.
seen some Leroys in England.
Yeah,
It's
a
like,
lot of
bro,
Winstons.
not a Leroy in England. I've seen white men named Leroy.
Wow.
Messed me up.
Right.
But now, I wouldn't think that there would be Leroy's in Jamaica.
I knew about three Jamaican. My dad's Jamaican, right? So I grew up in Orlando, and we grew up in the Jamaican community, and I knew about three Mr. Leroy's growing up. So I don't know where that came from.
Wow. I thought it was an American thing, a Black American thing. Seriously.
Leroy taking over for the 99 and the 2000.
Right. And my dad doesn't go by Octavius, though. He goes by Roy. He named himself that when he came here, and people had trouble with his name. So he's actually Roy Holliday.
Okay.
So that's a made-up nickname he made for himself.
Oh, okay.
We're off topic.
All right.
Yeah, that's all
Let's
right.
jump back in.
No,
All
that's
right.
okay. No. This is how we do it.
You studied undergrad at Duke University.
Duke University. Right,
played football.
I practiced football. I was recruited, and I went up there, and Gave them all, and then, you know, I didn't make the field as much as I wanted to, special teams and all that, but had a great time, and so I'm a Blue Devil through and through. Proud of those moments.
How do you feel about Zion Williamson going number one the other night?
Proud that we had 3 in the top 10, Cam Reddish, and we had R.J. Barrett as well. So, just, you know, obviously we love the Blue Devils. So we're building a greater future, greater reputation, rather. We used to have a lot of players go into the NBA and not do well. That was our reputation. So now we have some ballers out there, Kyrie and some other guys that are doing some good things in the NBA. So, good kid, too.
So you left the ACC conference and jumped into the SEC conference for graduate school, University of Florida.
Right. Went to law school at University of Florida. I will set the record straight. I grew up in Orlando. I was a Gator fan first. And then went to Duke and became a Duke fan. So when I went back to University of Florida, I was coming back home. I really did. Just moved from Orlando. I had a couple of years between law school and undergrad.
Sure. So, saw the error of your ways, and you came back to the SEC.
went to Florida, and that's where we had our second set of twins at Florida. So we have a school. So, but you know that story already.
Are you in school right now?
No, there will be no more schooling.
Is you in school right now? I'm going to get a no. You don't need no more degrees, brother. No, we know what that means. That's code. No more degrees for you.
I'm an empty nester, sir. Empty nester. You know, I'm talking about your children, but empty. All of them are flying. So
nice.
All right.
Beautiful.
Yes. Wonderful.
Beautiful.
Love it.
Attorney Holliday, there really is no easy way to tiptoe to when you speak about today's subject matter. And what I didn't know, but I'm glad you shared this with us when you came into the studio. Share with our listeners very briefly about what your role is as an assistant state attorney, and specifically as it relates to police-involved shootings.
Okay, all right. So at the state attorney's office, I am the division chief of a newly created when Melissa Nelson was elected state attorney. So back in 2016, she was elected. She took off in 2017, and that's when she asked me to join her staff. So I'm over the Human Rights Division. So that is a hodgepodge of a couple of different areas of practice that we wanted to specialize in. So primarily elder abuse, any kind of exploitation, neglect, or abuse of the elderly. We also have hate crimes. So I'm on a statewide task force as far as hate crimes. I heard you talking about the Emmanuel shooting and tragedy. So we focus on a lot of things that happen in Florida, but also things that happen around the country to keep our agencies on alert here in Florida. And then in addition to that, any type of officer violence. So a lot of people focus on police officer shootings, but essentially I have several cases. I've had several cases of corrections officers being too abusive in the jail, those kind of things. So it's all types of officer-involved violence. Now, officers can get involved. They're regular citizens, really. So they can get in trouble in all kinds of ways. So if they are stealing, that doesn't come to me. That goes to another, a colleague of mine, same level. If they're doing some type of sexual activity or illegal sexual activity, that goes to another colleague of mine. But specifically when it comes down to officer violence, putting hands on people when you're not supposed to, shooting when you're not supposed to, those kind of things, it typically falls to me, unless they do kill someone, and then that goes to our homicide team. In terms of officer-involved shootings, Melissa Nelson came up with a task force to evaluate each officer-involved shooting, and she broadened it from the previous administration where it was only officer-involved death, so a shooting that resulted in the death of a citizen, to any time an officer uses their firearm and bullet hits flesh, as we call it. We need to know whether the officer had a right to use their firearm on that person. So we break it up into 12. There's 12 of us, and every month we're assigned a month to actually go out to the scene of every officer-involved shooting, and we start our investigation from there to investigate whether the officer was justified in the shooting. So I think that's a big step as far as transparency for the office, and trying to just build a relationship with the community. A lot of mistrust between specifically our community, African American community, and law enforcement in total, state attorney's office and sheriff's office.
Well, I must say that I'm very happy to know that task force has been created, that you are a part of that task force. And I'm going to take it a step further, an African-American man on that task force. Leading the task force? Do you lead this particular task force?
No, we have directors of homicide typically lead the task force.
Okay.
JSO has their cold case unit come to the scene as well. So JSO is doing an investigation of the alleged perpetrator at one point, and then the officer is represented by an attorney as well. FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police, will have their attorney arrive at the scene to protect officers' rights in terms of remaining silent or whatever he wants to do, make a statement if he wants to, or she wants to. And then our team shows up, the cold case team from JSO and the state attorney's office team shows up. So I don't lead the task force. I'm just involved in it. and to be fair, there's other initiatives I'm involved in too with the state attorney's office that aren't really that relevant to where we are now, but as far as this broadcast, but yeah, it was some injection of blackness into the task. I can't hide from that. Ms. Nelson was candid that she had promised the leaders of the Jacksonville community that she would be more transparent, and she recruited me and did a good job. She promised some things and has been true to her word so far.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing.
Now, with what we see going on around the country, all right, right now, as of June 11th, 2019, 406 people have been shot and killed by police around the country.
Right.
Now, I don't know all the details behind this data that I was able to find, but let's get down to us understanding our rights, because on social media, and I think Will Smith said it best, that, what we see happening right now from a race standpoint, it's not increasing, it's just now being filmed. Social media and technology is now allowing us to capture what we within the African American community knows has been going on since way back, right? So talk to us about some very basic things. Matter of fact, let's do a scenario. Okay. A black man is pulled over at a traffic stop. Okay. The typical run-of-the-mill procedure: turn off the ignition. The officer approaches the vehicle. All right.
Okay.
What does this brother do?
The very first thing, and I know, all right, I'll put myself in that situation, right?
Okay.
I deal with law enforcement. I interact with law enforcement every day. So my reaction to a traffic stop is going to be different than most African Americans being stopped on the street.
Sure.
So, I know I'll handle it a certain way, and I'll have a conversation with that officer. But most civilians are going to be trained in knowing the law and all those kind of things. So the very first thing is not to become emotional, not to become excited. And that officer is thinking about getting home. He doesn't know you from Adam, and he or she is trying to get home. So you need to make sure that they stay on that same thought pattern. They're going to get home safely, and it's not going to be you that interrupts them getting home. So you have to remain calm. So there is no raising the voice, getting upset or whatever. And then you got to think about your safety and officer safety as well. And that means what they call furtive movements. That's what they're going to put in every police report if they decide to shoot you. That you made a furtive movement, that you reached under the seat, you reached for the glove compartment, you reached inside your center console. You've done something that gave them pause and alarm.
You said furtive?
Furtive. F-U-R-T-I-V-E. Quick movements.
Quick movements.
And
quick,
that's
unexpected movements.
Okay.
And I want to speak on that, because we saw a video, I think maybe 2 weeks ago, of a situation where the young man had both his hands out the vehicle. The officer was giving him instructions. The officer told him to turn off his vehicle.
And he said, nope.
Well, initially, the young man went to turn off the ignition. As soon as he went to turn off the ignition, the officer yelled, "Gun, gun, gun." So the young man was like, I'm keeping my hands right here.
Exactly right.
So in those instances, and I've seen multiple occasions on social media where an officer is screaming out orders, and as the person is attempting to comply, the officer becomes overly aggressive, saying that the person is being aggressive or making some sort of movement, or they're reaching for a weapon. So when you say no furtive movement,
no quick sudden movements, nothing. So what I do in those situations, what I would do, or suggest even to the public to do, have the conversation with the officer, right? I just got stopped maybe a year ago on 9B. Dark out there. It's about 11 o'clock, and I'm not gonna tell you I gotta stop speeding. I was speeding. All right, fine, Miss Nelson. I was speeding. I was speeding. All right, fine. Going home. I was going home to read my Bible. But regardless, the officer comes up on the passenger side, which they're going to do. They're not going to be on the road side. And I am having a conversation with that officer, and I am telling him, look, I'm going to keep my hands on the steering wheel, okay? And he was like, okay. And he's like, I need you to produce your registration and insurance. And I was like, yes, it's in the glove compartment, sir. Okay. He's like, I have a flashlight. So this is our conversation going. And I'm in law enforcement, right? I could have easily said, I'm a prosecutor. Easy. No. It's in the glove compartment, sir. Okay. I'm going to flash my light down there and give you some light to see that. Okay. And I was like, yes, sir. I'm going to reach for it right now. Okay. Get down and get my license, my registration, whatever. Give it to him. My registration and insurance. He takes it back. Now, little known fact is that they can tell we're prosecutors when they run our tag
Mm-hmm.
at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
But regardless, I wanted to take him step by step,
Sure,
okay, or
sure.
be
Right.
a dead prosecutor potentially. And
Yeah.
I might be over exaggerating, but that's the fear we have as African Americans in those
No,
situations.
right,
We don't
exactly.
need
Exactly.
that officer to feel any kind of discomfort or it's a dark night out there, right? And I don't
Right.
want him to see my
Right.
brush or my cell phone and think
Right.
it's anything but a brush or cell phone. So
Right.
Right.
every move I make, I'm telling them, and
Right.
it's in a polite tone too.
Right.
Okay.
I knew I was wrong for speeding, right?
Right.
So I'm
Sure,
not in
yeah.
any kind of, but that's not what always
but
happens.
that's
We have allegations, and I'll put allegations out there, that there's over-policing in some of our communities.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, if you've been riding down this same road, you're a law-abiding citizen, and you're going home to your family,
Yeah.
and you're stopped for the third time on a certain street, and you haven't done
Yeah.
anything wrong,
Mm-hmm.
you might feel some kind of way about that stop.
Sure.
And your anxiety, your tension, your anger
Mm-hmm.
could show itself to that officer.
Sure.
And I'm saying no.
Right.
There's a time and a place to address whatever the
Right.
officer's problems are or whatever
Yeah.
the issues are. But
And,
not right
and
there.
it's unfortunate because on the flip side, we also see video of people that don't look like us, white
Yes.
people that are clearly angry
Irate,
and mad and
belligerent.
irate
Right.
that
Right.
they've been stopped. And I saw a video recently of someone just calling police officers out of their names.
I saw that.
Right,
You know,
right.
and it's unfair that we have to take the polar opposite position when we're stopped. But you're here to let us know that this is the best course of action for us.
And let me say something that's unpopular, okay?
Yeah.
Because Octavius Davis knows I'm going to just keep it real and tell you how I feel about it.
Yeah.
You can create your agenda the way you want it to. So think about this, though.
Mhm.
There are plenty of times where an African American has gotten out of a car and been mad and upset and whatever, and the
Yeah.
officer's showing restraint and hasn't shot him.
Yeah,
That
right.
happens.
That is true.
Right.
That
True.
happens.
True.
There's plenty of
I believe
times when a white American has gotten out of a car in Jacksonville. Our last maybe 5 or 6 police shootings in Jacksonville have been white people.
Mm.
'Cause
Oh,
we
wow.
do Nassau Clay County as well.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Those don't really hit the media the same way. So the focus and the agenda is obviously we know that there's been a
Right.
disproportionate amount of African American men killed in these situations. So we
Right.
know what the problem is. So we're trying to highlight the issue.
Right.
And in highlighting that issue, we're going to pick the situations where a white American has got out of the car and been angry and disruptive or whatever
Right.
and hasn't gotten shot.
Right.
An African American has and gotten shot and say, there is the problem. You see the problem?
Yeah.
The problem really goes to the officer's training, their sensitivity in terms
Uh-huh.
of
Yeah,
how
right.
anxious they are when they see African American males.
Right.
But we're trying to create our agenda. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I can make if a white American wanted to attack us and be anti our agenda in terms of being awareness of this problem, they can make a video just the same about a lot of white Americans because by numbers, right, more white Americans are going to be probably killed by police officers than African Americans, but proportionally speaking, we have
But
a
it's
problem.
disproportionate for
disproportionate
us.
for our
Right.
numbers.
Right.
So it still goes down to me, an officer being trained,
Yeah.
one, and not being jittery. If you're jittery, maybe you shouldn't be doing that particular job.
Exactly.
You know,
You know,
right.
right. Just, you hate to put it that way, but everyone's
Right.
not cut out for the same job.
That's
so if
right.
you're
That's right.
in certain areas of town and it's highly populated with African Americans, and you're nervous every time you stop in the car, and you're this out of the way, and you got a different tone, and you're aggressive,
Right.
more aggressive towards African Americans, and
Right.
then I'll piggyback that with or couple that with. The sheriff's office has to be more accountable too. If
Absolutely.
You're getting multiple complaints about this officer.
Yep.
Right.
They shouldn't be on that same beat. They shouldn't
Right.
be in that same situation over and over again. And then, so all that being said, there's a lot coming out at once. But as
Yeah.
y'all shall say, ask
Yeah.
questions.
Oh, no,
as
no,
you
no.
wish.
You're-
It's the Pod FM show. We are speaking with Assistant State Attorney Octavius Holliday, helping you to know and understand what your rights are when dealing with and encountering law enforcement. Now, Attorney Holliday, you just gave a rundown on our temperament, how we can better manage our temperament if we're pulled over.
Okay.
Let's talk about rights, because you made a statement a moment ago that there are certain things that you know as a protector of the law when dealing with law enforcement that us, the everyday law-abiding citizen, may not know.
Right.
So what are our rights? And I'm going to throw some questions at you very quickly.
Okay.
All right. And this is based on what I've seen on social media.
All right.
Right?
Okay.
So there have been instances of video that I've seen on social media where an officer has approached an individual, maybe walking along the road,
Okay.
asking to see ID.
Right.
And the person refuses to show the ID
Yeah.
Right.
until the officer gives them the reason as to why they want to see the ID.
That's right. So there is this thing, this magical, powerful, very important thing in our Bill of Rights called the Fourth Amendment.
Right.
Okay.
Fourth Amendment is your protection against unlawful seizure, right?
Search and seizure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in that, an officer can do what they call a consensual police encounter. That means an officer can come up to you anywhere, anytime, and say, "Hey, can I see your ID? Can I, That's fine. There's nothing unlawful about an officer contacting a civilian or a citizen.
Okay.
But to demand anything of you that you must comply with, they have to have a reason for the detention. And what that comes from is they call it a reasonable suspicion of some unlawful activity. So reasonable suspicion, they either think that you did a crime or doing a crime or about to do some crime. That's the layman's way to put it.
Sure.
Right. So if they can articulate some reasonable suspicion of a crime afoot or some violation, then you don't have to comply. Okay.
Right. So I can say, well, no, I'm sorry. You haven't given me a reason as to why you're stopping me.
Exactly right. Politely, right, officer. I would comply with you. I need to know why you're stopping me. Why are you stopping me?
What did I do?
And they need to articulate that.
Right.
If they don't articulate that, you say, you know what, officer, have a good day. That's the nature of a consensual police-citizen encounter, is that you have the right to walk away.
Okay.
Right.
Now, there have been instances, though, even that is the law, and that's the law in the whole land. That's not made up in Florida or Jacksonville.
That's nationwide.
That's nationwide. That's U.S. Supreme Court law and case law and all the litany behind it. All right. But there are officers who abuse the law, and they want to demand. First of all, they either want to demand your ID, or they won't tell you why they're stopping you. Right. And as you walk away, now they want to arrest you for resisting without violence. That's to catch all that you did something. After you're detained, you did something. But you're going to beat that case. Because if you can show that, and there's nothing wrong with recording too. If it's not interfering with the police officers, that's another. That's it.
Absolutely.
You have a right, or your persons have a right. People with you have a right to record a police officer encounter with you, especially if it's a consensual encounter. But even if it's not, you have a right to record that, as long as you're not interfering with the investigation. So it can't be that you're in a traffic stop and your mama come out from behind the bushes and she up in the middle of the car filming everything. No, she might be interfering with the police officer investigation. So if they say stand back. Stand back, put the camera on Zoom. Right. But we've had situations where the officers say, no, stop recording.
Correct.
I've seen that.
Violation of, that's violating your right. Okay. In fact, recording is actually a form of freedom of speech, your First Amendment right. So they're violating your right. You can sue them, and there's repercussions for that officer.
Sure.
And training. But regardless, getting back to your interaction with the officer, you don't have to produce that ID. Now, I'll tell you what I do, typically, right? Since I know I'm not doing anything illegal, I'm Octavius Holliday. I showed ID because I know he could be in it's a PG show, whatever. He could be whatever, in whatever kind of mood. So I don't have anything to hide. Here's my ID.
Here's my
now,
ID.
that does not go to him searching me, though.
Right.
Sure.
That just goes to me identifying myself.
Right.
I might even say it to him, officer, I don't believe I have, you haven't articulated a reason why you're detaining me, but if you want to know, here's my name.
Who I am.
Right.
Sure.
And that has happened to me. Actually, we don't get into that story here today, but that's happened to me where I was like, I know you don't have a right to say anything to me, really.
Right.
But here's my ID. This is who I am. And I was a defense attorney at the time. But that does not lend itself to searching me. In fact, an officer has to articulate a reason. So to search you, that's a whole different ball of wax, if you will, from stopping you. So even if an officer has a right to stop you, you jaywalked.
Right.
Sure.
You jaywalked. Officer has a right to stop you. Officer stops you. Does he then have a right to, I keep saying he, but it could be she, have a right to frisk you or search you? No. They have to then articulate a reason why they need to search you. If you have some bulge on your, they have to articulate, at that point, have to articulate a reason why they feel like you are now presently armed and dangerous. And that's a whole different ball of wax. So a lot of civilians feel like, when officer talks to me, I have to stop. Officer asks for ID, I have to comply. Officer wants to search me, I have to let him search me.
Right.
Although all those things aren't true. So you have to kind of just know your rights, that you can say no to the officer, but you're being kind of polite about it. If they violate your rights, then there's mechanisms in place to report that officer to their supervisors, report it at JSO if you're in Jacksonville or wherever you are.
And then but do I have the right to ask that officer, may I get your ID or badge number or whatever,
or request
and
a
your name?
supervisor.
I mean, do I have that right if I'm okay?
You do.
Okay.
You have that right.
Okay.
That's the short answer is yes.
Okay.
You do.
The short answer.
And they should comply. That officer should have a badge and he has a JSO officer ID.
Right.
So you should be able to get all that information and know who their supervisor is.
Right.
Even call a sergeant to the scene, a supervisor to the scene, or a patrol officer in charge to the scene if need be.
So I can ask him to get a supervisor to the scene, or I can call 911 and say, can you bring one?
Well, you might not be able to use your phone during the interaction with the police officer. But
Right.
you can say, you let officer, you know what, this doesn't seem to be going well. Can you call
Right.
your supervisor to the scene? I would like that to happen.
Okay, so
Right.
I can
Now-
request them to
Right.
call that
And we're in a
supervisor.
better
Gotcha.
situation today
Mhm.
because now in Jacksonville, at least,
got
and,
those
we
cameras.
have body-worn cameras.
Yeah.
Right, and they're recording the whole thing. That
Right.
that protects. Now, a lot of pushback from officers at first.
I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Right, but the
Mhm.
research around the country has been officers love those cameras, and now they won't go out without the cameras being on because you have false allegations all the time too. He called
Right.
me the N-word. He did this.
Right.
The cameras are rolling. You're like,
Right.
ma'am, I know you're saying all that, but I got
Yeah.
the camera rolling on you.
Yeah.
And so it diffuses a lot of the line that goes both ways. The fabrication of different reports that has been,
Sure.
alleged throughout the years, and then
Sure.
also citizens making all kinds of allegations toward officers. So
Right.
those body-worn cameras are the first forms of evidence they're asking for. Defense attorneys are asking for. Can we see that
Right.
camera footage?
Right.
And that resolves the case pretty quickly in terms of who did what and when.
Right.
Now, with instances with body cameras,
Yeah.
of course, there have been stories or reports that the body cam malfunctioned, or
Yeah.
I
Or
forgot
they
to
did-
turn
I
the
forgot
body
to turn it
camera
on.
on.
Right. Right.
I'll
But-
say that in Jacksonville, if the officer is involved in a adrenaline's rushing, right? So a robbery's in place. A robbery's happening right now, right?
Sure.
I've seen it several times where they forget to turn the camera on.
Okay.
Right, because I understand that as well, that you're rushing and all you're worried about is getting the
Yeah.
perpetrator.
And for the record too, the body cam situation is a new
It's very new. That's right. That's
thing
right.
that they
That's
have
right. That's
new
right. So
procedures.
there's some leeway right now, I
Right.
think. But in terms of a regular traffic stop, that should be automatic. Just like you called in a tag, that should be automatic.
Right.
Put your camera on, and
Yeah.
whatever. All that should be automatic. And I don't see too many instances of malfunction. They check it before they leave the station and that kind of thing. So, but it's helping out a lot. But
Good.
back to your rights.
Yeah.
Back to your rights. Okay.
Yeah.
Polite. You do not have a right to be aggressive to an officer. You do not have a right to curse the officer out
Okay.
and be all belligerent. That is not your right as a citizen.
Sure.
But okay, isn't that part of? I mean, I'm not saying somebody should do that.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But if I'm having a bad day and I have an attitude and I'm talking like this, I don't need to get arrested because I'm talking to you like that.
That's correct. And that's not illegal either.
Right.
All right.
It's
but
not
but
right.
the officer has discretion on how he's going to handle the situation. A lot of times.
Well, yeah, that's where
Right.
the problem lies.
Right. You,
Yeah.
If you piss off
Yeah.
anyone
Right.
at their job,
Right.
now you're going to have to just deal with their discretion, right? And their discretion could be a warning
Yep.
versus you being arrested.
Sure.
There could be a crime there. Sometimes there's a crime that in Jackson. Well, I keep saying Jacksonville because that's what we're familiar with here. But
Right.
all over the country, sometimes you do a criminal offense and you don't have a prior record. You don't have to be arrested. They give you notice to appear and you can show up in court.
Right.
But if you piss that officer off, all of a sudden you're in cuffs and now you're going downtown.
Yeah.
So there is no benefit to pissing off the person in
Yeah,
authority
absolutely.
at the scene. So
absolutely. But I just wanted to put it out there that it's not illegal.
It's not. It's
You
not
know,
illegal to have
so,
attitude, and
right, right.
and it's not even illegal to call officer all kinds of curse at officer.
Right.
Except you're escalating the situation. He or she is gonna call backup, and now you have multiple officers dealing with the person who is belligerent. They're gonna
Right.
report it just like they are, just like
Right.
it is. I have a belligerent citizen. Right. We don't know what's going on here. Now you have 2 and 3 officers on the scene,
Yeah.
and now the situation is now escalated where you could have just remained calm and dealt with the situation.
And
but
the turnout would be a lot
I
different.
would think so. But
Yeah.
essentially, stay calm, comply. If there's any issues with that officer or their procedures, then you want to make sure you document their name and their badge number and whatever and where you are. All right. If they give you a ticket, then you keep the ticket, right? And got a citation number. All that's going to be public record and find out who you were dealing with.
Right.
Either you didn't write the officer's name down, and then you pursue it after the facts.
Right.
I get internal affairs reports from an officer doing some type of, as I putting hands on people when they're not supposed to.
Yeah.
First thing I do is pull the history. How many complaints do they have? Is it a pattern of behavior?
Yeah.
But we can't get that pattern of behavior if you never make a complaint. If you feel like you're just going to get on Facebook and talk about your bad experience with a police officer, but
Right.
never go down and report the behavior.
Dear
So it needs to be
people.
documented. Yeah.
Yeah, make
Dear
that a
people.
dear people episode
Yeah,
that
yeah,
we need to document.
Right.
Right.
Document it. Yeah. Yeah.
It's the Pod FM show. I'm Octavius Davis on the other end of the microphone.
Wanda P.
And we want to thank you so very much for joining us today for the Pod FM show as we are discussing knowing and understanding your rights when encountering law enforcement. Now, if you don't know, we do 2 versions of the show. There's a show that you see and a show that you hear. The show that you see is live streamed on Facebook Saturdays at 10 a.m. We want to encourage you to like our Facebook page, Pod FM. That's 2 words, FM. So be certain to go ahead and like the Pod FM page. Also, we have different radio station affiliates where you can hear this show.
Yeah.
And Wanda, what are those station affiliates?
Well, today at 1 o'clock, hot923.com, Atlanta's hot R&B station. Also, they stream on the iHeartRadio app. So make sure you download that iHeartRadio app. You'll be able to hear the show on Hot 923. And also Mondays, WEWC.com. EWC's digital radio station, 1 o'clock every Monday. You will hear the show. And then Tuesday, we've got 4 times on Tuesday. Okay, let me make sure I get these times right. 8 a.m., noon. Oh, is it 8 a.m. or 9 a.m.?
I believe it's 9 a.m.
9 a.m., noon, 5 p.m., and then 8 p.m. on Tuesdays on the Sound of Duval. That is thebeat927.com.
927thebeat.com.
927thebeat.com. This second week in a row, I got it wrong.
That's okay. I got your back. I'm your brother. I'm your brother. I got you.
Thank you.
And we're discussing knowing your rights
Yes.
with Assistant State Attorney Octavius Holliday. So
Yeah.
you've given
Great
some really good
discussion.
tips so
Yeah.
far.
Yeah.
To do a quick recap, one of the main things you made mention opening up was us managing our temperament when dealing with law enforcement.
Yeah.
Don't become irate. Don't allow our emotions to get the best of us.
Right.
And comply when law enforcement is asking things of us. And there was something that you mentioned when you gave the example of a recent stop that you experienced. You talked the officer through what you were doing.
Right.
All right.
Right.
My identification is in the glove compartment,
Right.
sir. I'm going to reach over, grab that now, et cetera, et cetera. Helping that officer to feel comfortable and letting them, giving them a sense of security that you're not a threat to them.
Right.
You also made mention about we do not have to show our ID when being stopped.
Yeah.
However, in an effort to prevent a situation from escalating, and if we know we haven't done anything wrong, are you
It's in
suggesting
our
that we
best
still
interest.
show
Yeah.
that ID?
Look,
Yeah.
it's up to the individual.
Sure.
It really
Sure.
is, in terms
Yeah.
of whether they comply or not.
Right.
You have a right to ask why, even when a traffic stop. You don't have to just assume that the officer is being lawful when he stops you in a traffic stop.
Yeah.
Sure.
But typically, the officer's going to say, "Do you know why I stopped you?" They ask
Yep.
you that, right? No, sir. You
But
stopped you 'cause
if
you were-
they don't,
if they don't,
we
you
need
have
to
the right
ask.
to say,
Okay.
Yeah.
"Officer,
Yeah.
can I ask you why was I stopped?"
Right.
You have a right to ask that information, and if they don't want to tell you, then you really don't have to show them any information, any identification, anything like that. I
Right.
think this stop is unlawful. Let you give me some reason, officer.
Yeah.
And recordings help prove that you said that and had this communication with
Yes.
the officer.
Yeah.
But as I have done on several occasions, my introduction to JSO was when I was a 19, 20-year-old coming through here, coming through the city.
Mm.
I got stopped with my friend,
Mr.
so-
Holiday, how many times have you been
I was
stopped
doing
by the
nothing.
police?
Look, I'm gonna tell on
Wait,
JSO.
Octavius, this is like
no,
the third time.
No, I'm gonna tell on JSO because it was a ruse, is what it was. I was coming
but
through.
seriously, you were 19
I
years
was
old?
about 20,
Uh-huh.
maybe, and I'm with my best friend. He's Jamaican, but he looks Hispanic.
Okay.
And we're coming through Jacksonville. I think we're coming back from Beaufort. His brother was in the Marines. We're coming back through Jacksonville, and I had my lights on and all that. We're going through. I got a car that looks like you should be stopping me. I mean, if you want to stereotype it.
Right.
Dark tinted windows with mag wheels and all that. Seminole
wow.
County plates. And in retrospect, I'm like, man, we look like drug dealers because we
Sure.
fit that's the description. You know,
Right.
different races and whatever, right? So
Right,
they pull
right.
us, they jump out on us, and they want to search the ID. All right, we show ID. They want to search the car. Now, I wasn't in law school. I was an undergrad.
Sure.
And
Okay.
I'm scared out there on the highway.
Absolutely.
And I'm thinking,
Oh, yeah.
we're not doing anything wrong, so yeah, you can search.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if I'll make that same decision today, but at the time,
Yeah.
just being fearful, I understand why people do make that decision. Don't see a whole lot of this. You know, back in the day, there used to be some allegations of planting evidence,
Yes.
this kind of thing.
I was about to ask
Yeah.
that.
Don't
Yes.
see a whole lot of that anymore.
Right.
In fact, I have not run across that in my years of practice, actually, with
Wow.
the state attorney's office.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing.
So, anyway,
Let me ask
that
you a
being the
question.
case,
So you mentioned today you probably wouldn't make the same decision to allow law enforcement to search your vehicle.
I'm going to assert my rights probably today. So in terms of the search, I'm going to show who I am. I'm going to identify myself, and not with any title associated with it. I do not do that.
Just your basic
I'm Octavius
basic
Holliday.
ID. Right. Right. Yeah.
They're probably going to know me anyway in Jacksonville, but
Sure.
anywhere else. Say I'm in Georgia. I'm going
Right.
to show you I am. But the idea is I'm not going to consent to a search unless you give me some reasons why you think you should be able to search my vehicle.
Right.
And that's just bottom line, just me protecting my own rights.
Sure.
It doesn't. I don't have anything to hide. There's no dead body in the trunk.
Sure.
But no, sir, I'm not going to be out here on the highway. You searching my car, and then at that point, we can call the dogs out. We'll call the dogs out. Whatever you want to do, sir.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't exceed 20 minutes of this attention. If you want to read up on the case law, sir, then he'll probably know my lawyer then.
Then
you should not exceed your
Yeah.
time of writing this citation, because if you do that, then we're going to have a problem. You're going to probably have a lawsuit. So
Very good. Which brings me to a question. So what is that time frame? Is that time frame 20 minutes or less?
It's not a right line, but typically it is 20 minutes. If an officer is writing you a citation, right, they normally have about 20 minutes to write that. If they hold you as a defense attorney, let me go put my defense attorney hat back on. I was a defense attorney a few years ago. If they're holding you out there 40 minutes and they're waiting for the dog to come, that's an illegal seizure, right? They only had the right to stop you from whatever they said you did. You use a turn signal, whatever the case may be. They stopped you, you're writing a citation. Anything beyond what it typically takes, the time it takes to write that citation, is now an illegal detention. And they don't have a right to search you or do anything after that, or even hold you. They gotta let you go. So they can't keep you out on the side of the road talking about they're going to have the dogs come out and all this other kind of craziness. But
so what can you do? Nothing but just comply until
document, right? And,
okay.
And if, just document, right?
Right.
You give it to your lawyer.
Yeah.
The case is beat.
Right. Okay.
I didn't make promises to my clients, but these are things that happen routinely. If they violate your constitutional rights, then that case is going to be beat pretty quickly.
Okay.
So, and going back to something you said earlier in the show, as far as us managing our emotions while in those situations, because I've heard you mention this maybe 3 times, and you just said it again. If we find ourselves in a situation where an officer is violating our rights, survive through the situation.
Absolutely.
Don't allow our emotions to get the best of us. Don't attempt to take on the entire police department by ourselves. Document, survive the situation. Once you're out of the situation, contact an attorney and allow the law to work for you on this side of things. Once your rights have been
attorneys making their
violated.
living by suing the police department.
Yeah.
That's really how it goes. You're violating constitutional rights, and that's a federal violation. If they, we're gonna go down this rabbit hole, but essentially, if they're using their authority, and they violating your rights, if they put their hands on you, that goes into the federal law. At that point, they're violating under color of law. They're violating your rights. So that could be a federal civil suit or even a prosecution of the officer if that happens. So the main thing is to remain calm and know that if they're violating your rights left and right. There might be able to pay at the bottom at the end of that, but you're not going to see that payday if you act up at the scene, right? You might have a problem because officers are human, right? And their reactions are human too. So if you get violent and boisterous, they're going to elevate their level of anxiety as well, and going to give it right back to you most of the time.
But but here's my thing: that door swings both ways.
Right.
Officers are human, so if we become irate, they can potentially become irate. But on the reverse side, there are instances where officers are overly aggressive and antagonizing towards the citizen.
Right.
So it seems as though officers who do that are trying to get a reaction so that they can do whatever their agenda may have been from the very beginning once stopping that individual.
Yeah.
Because we're human too.
Yeah, right.
Who's armed?
Right. Well, hello.
They're armed, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay.
So I guess it would behoove us to just know this, have this in our minds, and react or not react accordingly.
I don't know how you ever forget that they're armed.
Right.
That's their situation.
Right.
Now,
true.
officer treats me all kinds of ways and talks to me all kinds of nasty. I'm going to make that report.
Right.
So it might not be something I get paid for later on, like violating my rights, but I'm like, that officer was so nasty to me in a routine traffic stop. This needs to be on their record.
So that goes back to what you were saying, reporting.
Exactly right.
Very good.
Exactly right.
Very good.
So I have another question, and this is yet again something that I saw on social media. And the reason why I keep going back to what I've seen on social media is because these videos get shared thousands of times. And
oh my goodness.
That's correct.
There's information on social media, but not all information on social media is right information.
Right.
So I've seen instances where an officer has approached an individual and begun asking questions, and the response is, I don't answer questions.
Okay. That's the civilian's response?
That's the civilian's response.
And
I don't answer questions.
They have a right to that those questions if it hasn't been a lawful detention, if there's no reasonable suspicion of a crime.
Right.
Now, say there was a reasonable suspicion of a crime.
Sure.
They saw you jaywalk or whatever. And they say, sir, we saw you jaywalk across the street. We need your identification. I don't answer questions.
Right.
Well, now you got a trip downtown because they can take you downtown. They can take you downtown to identify you.
Yeah.
You don't answer questions,
Because,
but you finna take this
because the
ride.
bottom line is you broke the law by jaywalking.
Right,
So
right.
right.
Yeah, so
gotcha.
just an arbitrary
Gotcha. Yeah.
crime doesn't happen. Technically, we jaywalk. I mean, the state of jaywalking is really when you have a crosswalk at both corners,
Right.
and you cut in between in the street,
Right.
But
Right.
but you've had situations in Northwest Jacksonville where it's a lane. There isn't a traffic light on either
Right.
side.
You
and
have to jaywalk.
And pretty much
Yeah.
you're allowed to because
Yeah.
it's not crosswalks at both ends.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
I was going to say this that there, not theoretically, actually. We park in the state attorney's office. We park in the parking lot right across the street, and there is a crosswalk at both ends of our street. All of us jaywalk to get to our front door.
Of course you do.
Every day. So that's not a. So anyway, I just always think it's funny when I'm crossing the street. I'm always thinking,
Yeah.
that's pretty funny that we all have to jaywalk to get to the front door of the state attorney's office. But
Right.
but that being said, if they have a lawful reason to stop you,
Yeah.
you are then obligated to identify yourself.
Right.
Right. You're not. There's no obligation. There's no constitutional law. There's no state law that you have to have ID on you. That's not a law.
Okay.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, police
Okay.
officers say
That's
that.
good to know.
You're by law supposed to have ID. No, if you're driving, right, you're supposed to have a driver's license on you.
On you.
Right. And if you don't have
But
a
you're
license on
walking.
you, well, let's go
Oh,
further.
okay.
If you're driving and you don't have a license on you, that is a civil ticket.
Right.
That does not mean you're not driving with all the rights and privileges of a licensed driver.
Right.
They can
You
look
just
that up.
don't have your
You just don't have a
ID.
license on you. So
Right, on you.
Right. So
Yeah.
you got 10 days to go show your ID to DMV, whatever the case might be. But that's not an arrestable offense not to have your license on you.
Okay.
It's an arrestable
Good to
offense
know.
to
Yeah.
not have the privileges of driving. So now you're driving with a
suspended
license,
Suspended
or you have
license.
no valid license. You never had a license
Sure.
altogether.
Sure.
Then that's an
That's a
arrestable
crime.
offense. But even if you,
Yeah.
but see, let's go back. If you have and go down this rabbit hole, we can be here all day. Say you sent something to your old address, whatever the case might be.
Right.
If you don't know, right,
Mhm.
that's not a crime. That's a
Okay.
citation the first time.
Okay.
The second time, they're going to know that you know it's suspended. I just gave you a civil citation
Right.
last
Right.
week, and now here you are again. Now you know it's suspended, so that's a
But
crime.
that first one, you
right.
may not.
And,
Okay.
but an officer
gotcha.
might use their discretion and say, no, I think you should have known. I got proper
Right.
cause to arrest you for not knowing. They
Right.
So they got that discretion, right, to give you a civil ticket versus arresting you.
Right. But you're able to go back and prove that
Right,
you
right,
did
right,
not
right.
know
But the
if it was sent to a wrong address or
But
whatever.
the person who
Okay.
but the person who upset the officer may
Right.
still take that ride down instead of having a civil ticket
Sure.
to fight, right? So
Gotcha.
that's the whole point there. But you're
Yeah.
right about it goes both ways. We should be, in fact, if you look at it, why should we be acting any differently than white
Anybody
Americans
else.
or anybody
Exactly.
else?
Yeah,
Why do we
yeah.
have to be on guard? Well,
Right.
because we have a situation in front of us.
Right.
We
Right.
know that we got cultural differences. Sometimes they make stereotypes about us that aren't fair. If
Right.
we have dreads or whatever the case may be, they think we're more violent because we have certain attire on or certain cars, and we have to kind of recognize that and try to be safe and get out of the situation first.
Right.
Then we make our complaints or our lawsuits, whatever, after the fact, after we're safe. So,
Mm.
and I'm not telling you anything different than I'm telling my own kids.
Absolutely.
Get home safe first, and then daddy will handle the heavy lifting after that.
Right.
Wow. Well, a lot of great information shared with us today by Assistant State Attorney Octavius Holliday.
This
Know
has
your
been
rights.
great. Yeah. We got to have you come back.
Taylor?
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a lot
because
to talk about
there's
and
a lot to
unpack.
discuss, and that we
I don't know if I sound interested. I could be putting people to sleep. They taking another nap this morning.
No, well,
Listening to
because like
Octavius
case in point, that's a show in and of itself.
There you
no. Octavius and Octavius. Well, like you mentioned, I thought that
Yeah.
if a person was simply walking to the store, they
Yeah.
had to produce an ID.
So did
if they
I.
were stopped by police.
Yeah.
I thought that was a
Yeah,
law.
so did I.
So we definitely have to have. I would love to also be able to field questions from our listeners in the future as well,
Yeah.
because I think the best way to deal with law enforcement is to be informed when dealing
Right,
with law
right.
enforcement.
And that's the whole show today.
Absolutely.
So let me do a plug. I'll do a plug real quick.
Go for it.
The FBI, a local FBI, is Carlton Peoples is the local area chief. He does a bi-monthly community meeting called FBI United. Right, so we have a lot of political leaders and pastors and everything come out over the last few years.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is get in front of the community reaction if there is a police officer shooting that the public doesn't react quickly without having all the facts, right? So we want to have people engage with law enforcement, know who to call.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it's my office, if it's the FBI, whoever to call, so that we stay calm. And if there's, I'm not saying you don't have a right to protest if there is an unlawful shooting, but you got to give the investigations some time to take place. But yeah, if you go on the FBI website, I believe, to go to the community outreach section of it, they have United meetings,
Okay.
is what they call it. So if citizens want to come out and ask questions, I am typically there.
Okay.
McCartan Peoples is there. We have U.S. attorneys there. Frank, what's Frank's last name? I forget Frank's last name, at the U.S. Attorney's Office right now. Good guy, though, goes out different schools and does community work. So if you want to come out and ask questions off air, right in person, and get in my face and say, you're wrong. You know, I know the law. I know it better than you. My Yahoo degree is better than your UF degree. Then there it is.
Well, if you ain't got the .com behind it, it's not official.
It's not official.
If it's
You'll
not
be surprised. They got that Google degree.
That's hilarious.
That Google JD.
We appreciate your
And he
attorney
got
Holliday.
jokes, too. I love
He's a
it.
great dude. He's a great dude.
Thank you so much. This
Not a
has been
problem.
awesome to have you,
Okay.
and we are gonna have you back as long as you're available.
That's my man.
To
So,
us,
anytime.
and yeah. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, Wanda P,
All right.
it's time
That's
for us to
it.
get on up out of here.
It is.
So it's another show in the books. We look forward to seeing you guys next week. Catch you later.
Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.
You hear me? Because my microphone not on. All right.
Sorry, they could just hear us. Oh, sorry about
Facebook
that,
family,
folks.
we appreciate you guys
Thanks,
jumping on for
Facebook.
another show. Thank you for those of you who shared the video, who tagged people into
Yeah, we
today's show. We
appreciate
believe
you.
it can be a life-changing experience and opportunity, which is the purpose of today's show, to inform us, our community, so that we can properly handle law enforcement once we encounter them. So we're going to go ahead and turn this bad boy off.
Absolutely.
Even though we are disconnecting the live feed, I encourage you to still tag people, still share the video,
Please do.
so that we can help as many people as possible become educated and informed. So y'all
Right.
have a great weekend. Peace.
All right. Bye bye, everybody. Thanks. All right.